The late afternoon sun slanted through the lace curtains of my grandmother's old Victorian home in Savannah, casting long shadows that danced like uneasy ghosts across the polished hardwood floors. I stood there in the hallway, my hand frozen on the doorknob to the study, heart pounding as if it knew what my eyes were about to confirm. Eleanor, Nana, as I'd always called her, had just slipped me a faded envelope, her arthritic fingers trembling not from age, but from the weight of the secret she'd carried for too long. "Open it when you're alone," she'd whispered, her voice a fragile thread in the humid Georgia air. But I couldn't wait. The paper crinkled under my fingers as I pulled out the yellowed promissory note, signed in my mother's elegant scrawl 7 years ago. A loan from me to her. $15,000. To be repaid in full within 1 year. It never was. And now, with everything I'd uncovered in the past weeks, the spa receipts, the airline tickets, the bank transfers vanishing like smoke, I felt the first real crack in the facade I'd been raised to uphold. Family first. Always. But what if family was the thief in your own house? That crack had started small. A hairline fracture in the perfect picture my mother, Margaret, painted of our lives. I'd driven over to their house 2 months earlier, the scent of magnolias heavy in the summer breeze, my old sedan rumbling down the tree-lined street. Work as a freelance graphic designer had kept me buried in deadlines, but Margaret's messages had piled up like unpaid bills. "We need to talk about the family fund. Don't forget your share this month." Always that edge. Not a request, but a demand cloaked in maternal concern. I pulled into the driveway, and there it was, a gleaming black Mercedes SUV, chrome rims sparkling under the sun, parked where Dad's rusty pickup used to sit. My stomach twisted. Last time we'd spoken, she'd lamented about medical bills stacking up, how they were barely scraping by. This was the ride of someone who'd hit the jackpot. Not the jackpot of someone drowning in debt. I stepped inside, the air thick with the aroma of roasted garlic and expensive red wine, nothing like the budget casseroles of my childhood. The living room had been transformed, plush velvet sofas, a crystal chandelier that caught the light like diamonds, abstract art on the walls that screamed gallery prices. "Emily, darling," Margaret cooed from the kitchen, her smile too bright, too rehearsed. "So good of you to finally make it." My brother Michael lounged on the new sectional, scrolling his phone, while my sister Sarah arranged charcuterie on a marble board, her manicured nails clicking against the stone. "Looks like things are going well," I said, my voice light but probing, eyes scanning the room. Michael shrugged. "Mom found some deals." "Deals." Right. Like the kind that magically appear when your kids' contributions flow in every month. The family fund had started innocently enough. Or so I'd told myself. 8 years back. After Dad's heart murmur scare, nothing fatal, but enough to rattle us, we'd all agreed to chip in. A safety net, Margaret called it. Just in case, she'd said, her eyes misty with feigned vulnerability. I was the youngest, fresh out of college, scraping by on entry-level gigs, but I sent my share without question. Duty. Loyalty. The American dream wrapped in Southern hospitality. But over time, the amounts crept up $200, then $500, then more, always justified by vague emergencies. The roof's leaking. Utilities spiked. I'd swallow the guilt, transfer the money, and ignore the gnawing doubt. Until now. Sarah's text buzzed in my pocket as I sat down. "Transfer yet?" "Mom's waiting." I ignored it, letting the silence build like storm clouds over the marshes. Dinner unfolded like a scripted play, the kind where everyone knows their lines but no one admits the plot. Margaret steered the conversation to gratitude, her favorite theme. "We all pitch in because that's what families do," she said, her fork poised midair. eyes locking on mine. Michael nodded vigorously. Ever the golden boy with his steady accounting job. Sarah smirked into her wine glass. Some of us more than others. The dig landed like a slap. But I kept my face neutral. Chewing slowly. Tasting nothing but resentment. Under the table. My fingers clenched. How many times had they done this? Public praise for Michael. Subtle shaming for me. It wasn't about the money anymore, it was the control. The way they made me feel small. Indebted. Trapped in their narrative of sacrifice. As plates were cleared, I excused myself to the kitchen. Ostensibly for water. That's when I saw it, a stack of papers peeking from under a cookbook on the counter. My heart raced as I glanced over my shoulder, then lifted the book. Receipts. A 5-star resort in the Bahamas. First-class tickets to New York. A designer handbag from a boutique in Atlanta. Dates matching my last 3 transfers. The totals? Nearly exact. Blood roared in my ears. This wasn't survival. This was plunder. Footsteps approached, Margaret's heels clicking on the tile. I dropped the book, grabbed a glass, and turned with a smile. Just thirsty, I said. She nodded, but her eyes narrowed. Sensing the shift. Back at the table. The tension simmered. Unspoken but thick. Sarah leaned in toward Margaret, whispering something that made them both glance my way. I felt the isolation. The quiet exclusion that had always been their weapon. Growing up, I'd internalized it, the Vietnamese roots my parents carried from their immigrant days. Twisted into American soil, filial piety above all. Question nothing. Endure in silence. But silence had cost me years of trust. Of self-doubt. Emily's always so independent, Margaret said loudly. As if reading my thoughts. But independence doesn't mean forgetting where you came from. The words twisted like a knife. I set my fork down. And where exactly is my money going? The room stilled. Michael coughed. Sarah averted her eyes. Margaret waved it off. Trust. Dear. It's about trust. That night, driving home through the fog-shrouded streets, the betrayal burned hotter than any southern summer. Trust? They'd weaponized it. I pulled over near the river. The savannah's dark waters mirroring my turmoil. Tears came then. Not from sadness, but rage raw. Unfiltered. How many dreams had I deferred? Freelance gigs turned down because I couldn't afford the risk. All while they sipped cocktails on beaches funded by my sweat. The damage wasn't just financial, it was psychological. A slow erosion of my worth. But in that moment, alone under the streetlights, something hardened. Revenge wouldn't be loud or flashy. It would be precise, patient, like the tide wearing down stone. I'd make them pay not just the money, but the price of their lies. The next morning, sunlight pierced my apartment blinds like accusations. I brewed coffee, strong and black, and dialed James, an old college friend now at the local bank. I need discretion, I said. We met at a quiet cafe downtown. The clatter of cups masking our words. Your transfers, he whispered, sliding over printouts. Vanish quick. Not to bills, to luxury vendors. Offshore accounts in Margaret's name. My hands shook as I scanned the lines. Thousands. Years of it. And Nana's gifts? I asked. James nodded grimly. Intercepted. Routed straight to them. The puzzle snapped together. Eleanor's monthly $2,000. Meant for my future had never reached me. Stolen. The word echoed in my mind. Legal and damning. I spent the afternoon in Forsyth Park, under the Spanish moss-draped oaks, piecing together a timeline. Every emergency request aligned with their splurges, a cruise after my promotion bonus, a home theater system post my overtime payout. The betrayal deepened, not impulsive, but systematic. Michael, with his accounting skills, likely cooked the books. Sarah, the social climber, probably spent it on her influencer facade. And Margaret, the architect, pulling strings with guilt as her marionette wire. The psychological toll hit me then, nights I'd lain awake, second-guessing my finances, feeling like a failure while they lived large. But doubt turned to resolve. I'd expose them, but on my terms, letting the silence they'd enforced become my ally. Weeks blurred into calculated moves. I met Eleanor again, her frail form belying her steel will. "I've cut them off," she said, handing over more documents, her own bank records proving the diversions. "Use this." Gratitude swelled, mixed with sorrow for the family fractures. But the cost of inaction was higher: my sanity, my freedom. I confided in cousins, Aunt Linda's kids, far from Margaret's grasp. "Spread the word quietly," I urged. They nodded, eyes wide at the evidence. Whispers rippled through the extended family, eroding Margaret's control before she could counter. The climax came at the next family gathering, a holiday planning dinner Margaret insisted on. The air crackled with unspoken fury as I arrived, folder in hand. Sarah's smirk faltered when our eyes met. Michael avoided me. Margaret, ever the hostess, poured wine with forced cheer. Midway through, Eleanor spoke up, her voice cutting like a blade. "Emily, have you been getting my $2,000 monthly?" The table froze. Margaret laughed it off. "Misunderstanding." But I laid out the paper's statements, receipts, the promissory note. No misunderstanding. Theft. Voices rose, accusations, denials. Sarah snapped, "You're destroying us." Michael stammered excuses. Margaret's face twisted in rage. "Ungrateful child." I stood, voice steady amid the chaos. "You've destroyed trust. Repay within 30 days. Or face court." The bickering exploded, cousins taking sides, Eleanor backing me. Margaret lunged verbally, "You'll regret this." But I walked out, the door slamming like a final verdict. The fallout was swift: anonymous threats via text, social media smears from Sarah. Yet allies rallied, cousins testified to similar manipulations. Legal papers followed, a civil suit for fraud, emotional distress. The court date loomed. But settlement came first, repayments in installments. A no-contact order I enforced. In the end, the revenge tasted bittersweet. Family ties severed, but peace reclaimed. I sat on my balcony overlooking the river, the savannah breeze carrying away the ghosts. The price? Loneliness. Yes. But freedom? Priceless. And in the quiet, I whispered to myself, sometimes, silence breaks louder than screams.